the first stage that I think it's important to look at is the relationship that you have been in itself. And, you know, when we start a relationship, there is this wonderful coming together, the sharing, the bringing our lives together, the joy, the falling in love, the being together, the intimacy, all that you shared, the good times, the wonderful times. And it's important to really appreciate those, the positive things that the relationship gave you when you first started. And that goes for a 40-year-long relationship, as much as it can go for a one-night stand. So, you know, whatever, just remembering, and you might want to just scribble some notes down while we're going through this, just some qualities of the thing that was really beautiful about the relationship when it first started. So that's the first stage. Then the second stage is the awareness and the realization that it is in fact over. Now, sometimes this is very clear. For example, when a partner has passed away physically, that's obviously that relationship is ended. Even when behavior has been totally unacceptable, and that has occurred, many people find it hard to admit that the relationship is over and will keep going back to that old relationship. In other cases, there is a slow disintegration pattern where uncertainty about whether it is you or whether it is your partner, or whose behavior is it that's not, you know, gelling. And that can sometimes lead to confusion about whether a relationship is actually over or not. There can be uncertainty. Is this relationship really over or not? You know, in your mind, there's this thought that, well, maybe it can still work out. You know, I need to try harder. Perhaps if I try again, I give it another chance. They're going, you know, maybe you're thinking, oh, well, they're going through a lot, or I'm going through a lot right now. So I'll give it another go. Of course, he can't be there for me right now. She can't be there. You know, I understand, that kind of thing. So there's that kind of seesaw effect going on. If a partner has passed away, as painful as it is, it's clear. But when you're sometimes in that seesaw, it's a challenge. So the awareness, that the realization that the relationship is really over is a process. So you don't make yourself wrong if you're in that seesawing thing. It will go through a process and eventually it will become clear. And if it doesn't, you probably need to get some extra support and some extra help to help you. Once you've got through that, we get to number 3, which is the grieving process. So once you're clear it has either ended or is ending, then what's important about this stage is that you thoroughly come to terms with what's happened and grieve the loss of your relationship. Is if you don't fully complete this stage, then you won't be ready to meet somebody else. And it takes as long as it takes. You need to allow yourself to let it take the time it takes. You have to completely let the wound heal before you can move on. Ideally, it's like if you've got an infection, it needs to heal so that it doesn't get reactivated later in your life. When a relationship ends, it is like a death. It is a death. And there is a Swiss psychiatrist called Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and I'm going to put her name in the chat because she wrote a book and it's quite helpful. And if you Google her, you will find information about her. And I love her stages of grief. She did it for people who, for doctors and nurses. She wrote a book to help them counsel people who were ill and who were dying. However, she talks about the 5 stages that we need to go through. And I think it's relevant for the end of a relationship because, as I say, a relationship ending can be like a death. So these are the 5 stages: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. It's a very useful concept. And so, okay, how do we get through these stages? And I've put down here as number 4, getting support. There is only so much that we can all do on our own. Having the right guidance and support around you at this time will dramatically speed the process up from a matter of sometimes years to a matter of weeks. Process with other people, it really speeds it up, the healing process. And that's tough sometimes because we don't want to, because who do you trust with these incredibly vulnerable feelings? Sometimes we can't go to our friends because they've got their own issues and things going on. So finding the right place to be able to share with, where you're not shamed and where you can process what's gone on. Sometimes all we need to do is just to talk about it. So getting support, and for men, this goes for you as well as women. I know people, men who started attending men's groups, and it absolutely turned their life around. There's no shame in sharing, and actually by going through sharing our vulnerable feelings with people who we trust in a safe environment, which is well facilitated, and that is important. Sometimes the growth can be huge and fast, and you can make friends that last for life. So if you're struggling alone and have been for some time, then I would seriously consider getting help, and ask yourself, how much longer are you going to go on suffering like this? So as I say, sharing with others who are going through it too, having a safe place, non-judgment to share your feelings can completely turn things around. Then having a daily life discipline of healthy eating, healthy exercise, some kind of meditation, some kind of social life, and a peaceful home. These things will also really aid your recovery. And I know that sometimes when you're in the midst of those feelings and you just feel like doing a Bridget Jones and eating chocolate and drinking red wine or the equivalent, the last thing you want to do is to go out for a run. However, guess what? If you can make yourself start to get your body physically healthy and of course, that's also got to be balanced with being gentle with yourself. That's you don't want to go crazy. It's a balancing thing. Nature and music, beautiful music and nature. Give these things to yourself. Go for a walk by the river. Take yourself to the sea. Put on your beautiful music that you love, maybe a symphony or, dance. It could be, dance like crazy, or it could be spiritual music, whatever it is, just change the space that you're in. If you're feeling really rough, change that. Creativity and self-expression, channeling the feelings of anger, sadness, frustration into something creative can also really transform them. You don't want to bury your feelings. You want to, that's why they get children, who've been in war-torn areas, to do little paintings and things like that. Even if you're not a good artist, just in your notebook, just scribble. Also journaling, writing about how you're feeling, just getting it out of you onto the paper is so helpful. Moving on from that, mindset training, I've called this, which is now moving to a slightly different level of recovery, where you start to reframe what has happened and learn to control your thoughts. So that question that I asked you at the beginning, I asked you to think of the qualities of the relationship that you would like to have and what your personality needs to be like in order to receive that, is a subtle changing of the framework of having lost a relationship, because it's then like saying, okay, what were the good things about this experience that I had? Let me take those things. Let me take also the bad things. Let me learn from this and go on to create something new and better. And that's the essence of mindset training, is learning techniques to do that. And in order to do that, one of the most powerful tools, in my view, is to have a strong spiritual connection. And I always tell this story on these webinars because it was something that really helped me hugely when I was in the early stages of my training. There was a gentleman that I studied with, and he was a master trainer, and he would do workshops in London with 200 to 300 people at a time, you know, in big hotels and things like that. And he would have us all sitting in a massive circle, and it would go on for like 2 or 3 days. And he was a psychologist, he was also a clergyman, and he was also an amazing performer. And he would role play things, he would explain things, explain all the deep psychology principles underneath it, the psychotherapy techniques and the this and that. And then what he would say would be, okay, that's the long route to healing, he'd say. Now I'm going to tell you what the short route is. Take it to God. Take it to your concept of universal intelligence, source, higher power, whatever you want to call the substance of the universe, the quantum field, whatever it is for you. There is a way of connecting with that and allowing that to operate and help us through whatever it is that we're going through. And so that's my stage number 6, is cultivating a spiritual perspective, a concept of a higher power. If you do all of these things, you will get to number 7, which is acceptance. Having used the recovering tools, you will be getting back your vitality and your energy, and you're now getting to a point where you're going to be able to direct your energy towards your future again. Then we move to number 8, conscious awareness and understanding. Now, this is very important. This is about understanding why what happened. If you have been in a relationship where there was conflict, betrayal, or any of those other things, then it may be that you need to really understand what happens so that you don't go on to repeat the same patterns again. And I suggest that you have a guide, a friend, or a mentor who you can do this stage with. It's virtually impossible for us to see ourselves objectively unless we've done a great deal of personal development. Reconnection, number 9, rejuvenation, activation, and surpassing where you were before. You've dug your heels into the life that exists around you. You've accepted yourself and your life, and you're now beginning to feel gratitude again for everything that you have. And even for the relationship that didn't work out, because it's what's making you who you are now. And actually getting to a point where you don't need to have a relationship, having a strong social peer group around you and a good social life that doesn't depend on having a partner. These are all things that are going to help you to reconnect, then go out again and start dating. So re-entering a relationship, going out, dating again, and except this time conscious dating rather than just reactive dating is what I'm talking about. And I like to think about rising into love rather than falling in love being the key. And finally, committing to your ongoing growth. You know, to have a healthy relationship, you need to be constantly monitoring what is happening and constantly willing to learn, because relationships aren't static, they're always changing. So those are my 12 stages.